Welcome to the Midday News here on 3FM 92.7. The news is streaming live on our Facebook at 3FM 92.7. Do join us with your thoughts and comments. Coming up this afternoon, organized labor in a crunch meeting with officials of the Finance Ministry and the Minister of Employment and Labor Relations following government's refusal to halt the implementation of the 15% value-added tax on electricity. Also, this afternoon, striking teacher unions are meeting government following a series of industrial actions. And Minister for Lands and Natural Resources Samuel Abujinapo gives a strong indication of government's commitment to protecting Ghana's boundary lines. We have details of these and more stories coming your way shortly. To stay with us. Thank you very much for staying. We take the details now. Striking teacher unions are meeting the government today following a series of industrial actions. Aside from the Senior Staff Association of Universities in Ghana, the Teacher and Educational Workers Union, TEU, GH, declared an indefinite strike yesterday over their Tier 2 pensions and allowances. Let's head straight to the Finance Ministry, where their leadership is meeting with the Finance Minister. My colleague Nancy Vukania is monitoring the discussion and is joining us live on the phone with details on the back of this. And Nancy, good afternoon. What can you report?
Well, Godwin, as we speak now, the Senior Staff Association of Ghana from all the public universities have gathered here at the Ministry of Finance and in a closed-door meeting with the Minister and some other executives of the Ministry. And as at now, the expectation is that at the end of this meeting, we'll see a negotiated settlement as to when the strike can end and as to when funds will be released to the various fund managers to go ahead and make investments for the Tier 2 pension.
You cannot embark on the strike.
Issues. So the staff association members are very passionate about this strike, which has affected all of the primary schools and the basic schools run by the various public universities. As we speak now, I spoke to one of the trustees, the trustee of the University of Ghana branch of the University Senior Staff Association, and he says that this meeting is not open to the public because it is a negotiation. So as of now, we are still waiting on the meeting to conclude so that we can find out what it is they agree on.
But does it look like the strike might be called off soon, looking at how conversations are going on?
Well, as of now, Godwin, we will not be able to tell because the Finance Ministry called this meeting. It wasn't the other way around. So as we speak, the association executives are just waiting to see what the Finance Ministry has for them. And as I told you before, this is a closed-door meeting, so the media has no access. What we're doing here is that we're here waiting on the meeting to conclude so that we know what it is the ministry has for the association. Based on that, the association will decide on whether or not to call off the strike or that's currently ongoing.
Right. Thank you very much for the details. Nancy Vukania is a journalist here at Media General. Meanwhile, the National Labour Commission, NLC, says it may resort to the courts as an option to, if negotiations with the government fail. Here's the Executive Secretary of NLC, Afful, Asamoah, speaking.
They cannot embark on a strike or wear red armbands or do anything that will intimidate the other party during the period of negotiation. So if you are going to negotiate as a union with your employers and within the period you have declared a strike, certainly you are flouting the law. And then you can say we have declared a strike. So on what basis is the strike? When the commission gives a directive, it is not for anybody to go and consult with your members to ask whether you should comply or not. So the commission is looking at it. We are aware that some engagements are going on. But if it continues, I'm sure the commission will make a definite decision. And so you don't expect us till that you can comply, you take me to go for the court to tell you, stop, you have to stop.
That was Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, NLC, Afful Asamoah. Now, organized labour is locked up in a meeting with officials of the Finance Ministry and the Minister for Employment and Labour Relations following the government's refusal to halt the implementation of the 15% value-added tax on electricity. Organized labour's 7-day ultimatum for the government to abandon the implementation of the VAT on electricity elapsed yesterday, with the government requesting further dialogue from the unions. Our labour correspondent, Daniel Opoku, is at the meeting and has more details on this as he joins us live. Daniel, good afternoon. If you can hear me, is the meeting underway and what can you report?
Right. They were supposed to have met today, but unfortunately, they have shifted the meeting tomorrow. What is quite interesting currently is the fact that government is...
Hello, Daniel. Right, so we will rework our lines to connect to Daniel. We know that organized labor was supposed to be in a locked-up meeting with officials of the Finance Ministry and the Minister for Employment and Labour Relations following the government's refusal to halt the implementation of the 15% value-added tax on electricity. Organized Labour's 7-day ultimatum for the government to abandon the implementation of the VAT on electricity elapsed yesterday, with the government requesting further dialogue from negotiations. We just spoke to Daniel Opoku, who is a correspondent, where he mentioned that the meeting has been on hold. Daniel, thank you for coming back on the line. You can proceed with your report.
Right. I was saying that we organized labor was supposed to have met government today, but unfortunately the meeting did not take place because government was not ready to meet organized labor, even though there was a statement issued by government. Unfortunately, the meeting could not take place, basically because some of the labor members are not around. So hopefully, Labour has decided to hold its personal meeting by close of day tomorrow. Then they will issue a statement beyond tomorrow. But with the letter coming from the Minister of Finance indicating that there was a need for them to meet and get the issues resolved, Labour is here to lead government on that one.
Right. Daniel Opoku is our Labour correspondent with those details there, and we will definitely be getting in touch with him subsequently to know if indeed the meeting will come on later in the day or not. But meanwhile, the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, says it is yet to engage the Ghana Revenue Authority on the implementation of the 15% value-added tax on electricity. Leila Abubakar is the External Relations Officer of ECG. Let's take a listen to what she has been saying.
ECG is just having to implement this if we agree with the GRA on how to go about the implementation. Our only block now has been to understand how to tax, for instance, our customers who are residential, because under residential, we have those who are on several meter types, those who are on postpaid, those who are on prepaid. When you come to the prepayment, there are those who go to the vendors to buy with a card, and there are those who can buy online at home. And we want to understand how best to tax them. Are we taxing them at the point where they are buying electricity, or are we taxing them after they have used the energy?
Right, that was Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, Afful Asamoah, who spoke earlier. But at the moment, we will be crossing over to the Tema motorway, because we know that commuting on the Accra-Tema motorway is now smooth. This is according to our correspondent, George Queening, who is there at the moment monitoring happenings there, and he is reporting that it is because of the dangerous potholes on some of the portions of the 19-kilometer highway that have been patched, and it has generally made movement on that particular path smooth for commuters who use that particular stretch. Well, George Queening is joining us live on the Accra-Tema motorway to give us updates on exactly what is happening there. George, what has been used to patch the potholes on portions of the motorway?
Godwin, good afternoon. Thanks for having me. And I'm actually reporting live from the Accra-Tema motorway. And for the first time after 58 years, there's been major improvement on this 19.5 kilometer stretch. And prior to the sectional repairs there were deep potholes which pose a death trap to most motorists. And so these potholes have been attended to, and that is a sectional repair. And before, drivers would have to slow down and maneuver their way out, so that caused lots of traffic. But as it stands now, there's free flow of traffic because it's a smooth road now, so the car just pass and then go straight just like that. But this very repair is actually as part of the intervention work of the main expansion work, which is going to span 3.5 years. So it's good news. I spoke to motorists, and there's free flow of traffic, and now they don't have to deal with this, deep alleys and then deep potholes.
Right. So how are works on the reconstruction of the entire stretch going?
Okay, so as it stands now, contractors are trying to create more spaces for the, service lanes. As it stands now, there are 4 lanes on the motorway. So they're going to create 6 additional lanes. So 3 on the sides, 3 on the Accra bound, and then 3 on the Tama bound. So in all, it's going to be 10 after the completion of the project. So spaces are being created. And as it stands now, Godwin, there's this establishment of, asphalt, plants, which are going to, produce these asphalt for the major work. So they're also creating more, offices for that. So as it stands now, they are mobilizing resources to start with the main, rehabilitation of the motorway.
George, briefly, are motorists excited about this new development?
Yeah, I spoke to a few of them, and they're really excited about this. They don't have to deal with this whole potholes, trying to maneuver your way out. It's a highway, so sometimes it baffles me when you have to slow down on a highway, which maybe you have to take more than 80 kilometers to speed on. So for them, it's good news. But one can also urge them on the fact that in as much as it's smooth now, they should also control their speed. At the end of the day, families and loved ones need them alive, Godwin.
Right, that's my colleague George Quaining there with that report on the Accra-Tema motorway. We understand that there has been some major constructions on the 19-kilometer stretch, and it is definitely at the moment making movement quite smooth for motorists and pedestrians who ply that particular stretch. Let's do more stories, because the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abujinapo, has given a strong indication that the government remains committed to protecting Ghana's boundary lines. Addressing residents of Dollar Power, a mining community in the Bole district of the Savannah region, the minister noted that the government will continue to engage with its neighbors, which is Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, and Togo, to ensure that regulations of boundary lines are not flouted by other countries. My colleague Christopher Amwako will be joining us subsequently to let us understand exactly what this whole project is all about. But still on security, we have more stories for you, because the officers and staff of the Ghana Armed Forces have been charged to be professional in the discharge of their duties in the wake of emerging threats and hostile military-civilian relations reported recently. A strong caution has been issued to the officers of the armed forces to ensure peaceful coexistence in the country. As Ghana prepares to hold the 2024 general elections, the outcome, Chief of Defense Staff Vice Admiral Seth Amwama wants leadership of the Ghana Armed Forces to be loyal and highly professional. Our correspondent Christian Yali, I beg your pardon, has been on the beat and joins us live for a conversation on the back of this. Christian, first bring us up to speed on what has been happening at where you are.
All right, Godwin. So it has been a very colorful day and a colorful event here, Dema Camp, where a transfer of authority and a ceremony of farewell has been held in the honor of the outgoing chief of the defense staff, Vice Admiral Seth Amwama. As we speak right now, the event is almost ended as we are having a pull-out ceremony to demonstrate that indeed he has retired from the Ghana Armed Forces and has earned his tour of service. As we speak right now, a new chief of the defense staff has been sworn in the person of Major General Thomas Oppong-Pepra. Now, since morning, there have been series of events, including
presentation of citation, the showering of gifts on the outgoing, CDS for his stellar performance and leadership. So far, it has been a beautiful and a big day in the history of the country's security system.
Right, Christian, now tell us more about what the outgoing Chief of Defense has been saying. How crucial is this?
All right, Godwin, so you would understand and as we all know, that the West African sub-region over the years or in recent years has experienced series of military takeovers, popularly known as coup d'etats, as well as emerging threats, terrorism, violent extremism, among others. Now, as part of his remarks, the outgone Chief of Defense Staff, Vice Admiral George Amwama, has charged staff, officers, and leadership of the Ghana Armed Forces to discharge their duties with professionalism and also to ensure regular training to equip all staff officers to deal with the emerging threats that confront the country. And especially as the nation Ghana prepares and readies itself for the 2024 general elections, a strong call is being made for the members of the Ghana Armed Forces to ensure that their duties and their relationship with civilians do not bring about mayhem, as we have witnessed recently in the cases of the Asediba military brutality, as well as the ones that we've witnessed in Boko and other areas. So this is a strong call that he is making and an appeal on leadership of the Ghana Armed Forces so that there is peaceful coexistence, as well as other things that would ensure that the nation is stabilized for the 2024 elections and beyond.
Right, thank you for the insight, Christian Yali. Let's do more on security, because the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abujinapo, has given a strong indication that the government remains committed to protecting Ghana's boundary lines. Addressing residents of Dollar Power, a mining community in the Bole district of the Savannah region, the minister noted that the government will continue to engage with its neighbors, which is Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso and Togo, to ensure that regulations of boundary lines are not flouted by either countries. My colleague Christopher Amwako has more details on the back of this. Christopher, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Which area did the Lands Minister and the head of the Boundary Commission visit?
Yes, so he visited three communities along the Ghana-Ivory Coast border in the Bole district of the Savannah region. So his first port of call was at the Dollar Power community, where he held engagement with the residents of the community. He went to Dollar Power Accra and one other community just on the Ghana-Cote d'Ivoire border.
So we understand that residents were aware of the need of these boundaries, and we know that the Lands Minister has also been speaking. Run us through that.
Yes, so the Lands Minister has been urging the residents to ensure that they as well protect the boundaries of the country, because they live closer to these areas. He actually appeal to them that the teak trees that were planted somewhere 1978 and some of the pillars that were erected along the border communities, the residents have that responsibility of protecting them. Let's take a listen to what he's been saying.
So I want all of you to live in peace and harmony. And government has asked me to send this message to you, residents of Dollar Power, Ghanaians and Ivorians alike, to live in peace and harmony.
Right, we just heard the Lands Minister speak, but the area Dollar Power has been in the news over issues of illegal mining. Did the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources touch on that as well?
Yes, Dollar Power before now is a place that you cannot access, even as we speak. You cannot go there as an individual if you are going to do something else apart from going to also do illegal mining. And even before you get to the community, it means that you have informed the committee that has been put in place by the chief of the community. So they have their own internal securities, ensuring that no visitor is able to infiltrate the area. And issues of rebel activities and armed robbery is very prevalent in this area. So the minister has been assuring them that government will
regularized mining scheme, that is a small-scale mining scheme in the area, so that people can get concessions and also be able to mine. Let's take a listen to what he's been saying as well.
I'm here to tell you, on behalf of the president and his government, that we are not against mining. We are not against mining. Illegal small-scale mining, which is not on river bodies, plans are far advanced to grant community mining scheme license to this part of the country, and we will come here to commission the community mining scheme. The preliminary geological data and investigation which has been conducted suggests that Dollar Power is rich in gold minerals, highly mineralized.
Right, Christopher, before you take leave of us, what was the message of the National Coordinator of the Ghana Boundary Commission, Major General Emmanuel Kotia?
So he's been reiterating what the minister told the residents, and he's giving the indication that they are going to ensure that they do reaffirmation and also erect more of the pillars and plant more thick trees along the boundaries, so that there will be infiltration from the Ivorian area. So let's take a listen to what he's also been saying.
Very soon we'll be doing a reaffirmation exercise to reaffirm the boundary pillars and the construction of thick plantations to reinforce the pillars. The second point that he made was, and that is what we expected him to make, was opening up the place for mining so that this will lessen destruction in that area, especially closer to the boundary pillar. There's a competing interest between illegal miners coming from Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, and it is important for that place to be opened up. Now, the third point that he made was that the Ghana Boundary Commission facilitated the road network to Dollar Power, and he mentioned clearly that government was in support of it, and government will continue to ensure that that road is concluded at the right time.
Right, Christopher Mwako, thank you so much for speaking to us this afternoon, making us understand exactly what they have been saying. Let's now do more stories, and it has to do with accounts of some mobile money, which is Momo agents, have already been blocked following a directive by the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications in a statement dated January 30. Now, they said that to be blocked from today, that is when it will be happening across the country, and if they fail to link the accounts with the Ghana card or TIN as of yesterday, they will be blocked. Now, electronic money issuers, IMIS, had up until yesterday, which was January 31, 2024, to collaborate with agents to link the account with the Ghana card or TIN, or have their SIM cards blocked. The directive follows multiple extensive engagements with the leadership of the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA. Joshua Edmondson is an agent whose SIM has already been blocked, even though he has linked it to his card. Let's take a listen to what he has been saying.
For this very SIM, I'm sure I've linked it because I did my everything in their office. That's the MTN's office. So I'm surprised. The main one, rather, as of today, they are telling me that it's not been linked. Sincerely, they never sent me any message because I wasn't even expecting any message because I know that I'd already linked all my cards. So me, I wasn't even thinking about it. Only for me to do transaction today, for them to tell me that my Ghana card has not been linked to my agent SIM. And it's so surprising. And surprisingly today, for the first time, when I dialed star 404, they told me to register. Yet, meanwhile too, all this while, you are registered, I never saw something like that. So it's a real challenge to me. If even as of yesterday, if that pop-up came, I would have transferred all the money onto some of my SIMs that are already linked. But nothing like that. So it's a shock to me. But what we want to say is that blocking the SIMs is not the way to go. Because people who genuinely have challenges with their Ghana card will still not be able to, one, get their SIMs on block because they may have to produce certain document that they don't have. And that is what has led to a lot of them not linking their Ghana card. The TIN number GRA has not been clear on it.
That's a frustrated voice over there from Joshua Edmondson, who is an agent whose SIM has been blocked. However, Engineer Ken Ashigbe is the CEO of the Chamber of Telecommunications Companies, who has also been speaking.
most of them, they are sole proprietors. So for a sole proprietor, it is you. So your Ghana card, it's your thing. So they can use their Ghana cards to get, just the same way you would link your Ghana card to your SIM. It's the same thing they need to do. So for all of them who have been blocked, all they need to do is to take their SIM cards to their EMIs, and then their numbers would be restored for them. So if they have not been blocked, they definitely will be blocked. But if they are not, then it means currently, because they are not registered with the GRE, because it's your Ghana card, that would then become your TIN. That would say that you are an agent. And so when you do transactions, it should be exempted. It is the reason why all agents should get their Ghana card linked to their SIM.
Right, you heard the voice of Ken Ashigbe, who is the CEO of the Chamber of Telecommunications Companies. If you just tuned in, here's a recap of our headlines. Organized Labour is in a crunch meeting with officials of the Finance Ministry and the Minister for Employment and Labour Relations following government's refusal to halt the implementation of the 15% value-added tax on electricity. We also brought you striking teachers' unions who are meeting government following a series of industrial actions. And Minister for Lands and Natural Resources Samuel Abujinapo gives a strong indication of government's commitment to protecting Ghana's boundary lines. Well, that's how we end midday news here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Godwin Asediba. Manu for standing by with business. Stay with us.
Adama for the aba, a freezer, Adama, a Kwafosemensia. Adama, Metamosua, my sorry. Canino, over Moasia, a good friend from Nobium Unumi and San Last and 9. I tell you what we did was here. Adama, what you have who said, yet you drew back up a bit we be a high technology. I could for freezer, when Kwan, and once open your 15 letters. No fugum, what ya no fugum. What the bus here? For you be any what you have put yourself over Timono. Then we sure say, woman shown task here. Then what's enough for now? Freezer, power up a day. Freezer, Dacia, a bustle do so among Ammoniaji. To me, me was sick, to me, but you may not do a doom. Adama, with that Adama, no fear. Adama, you can't resist.
Benya Adama West Africa for a dream, or baby bear a tongue cry on where you. I say, Kayona Kinka in Choya, a dream.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3FM.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. Coming up this afternoon, turnover on secondary bond markets increases 30.54% week on week to 1.6 billion cedis. We'll bring you details. Also, Vice President of Imani Africa, Bright Simon, says ongoing IMF program to worsen existing high cost of living.
Even now, there are people that are struggling, and for whom this IMF program does not really offer much of a relief. And part of the reason is because the IMF program has come at a cost.
Plus, Ghana's push for local rice production faces threats from illegal imports. We'll hear from peasant farmers urging action to protect gains made since 2018.
We have majority of farmers, about 60 to 70% of them, who warehouses are so full of paddy rice they can't sell.
My name is Manu. Afful. We have details of these and more lined up for you. Stay with us. Thank you so much for your time. We'll go straight to a first story. And turnover on the secondary bond market has seen an increase week on week to about 1.6 billion cedis. This comes as the bond market activity halted after the harsh impact of the implementation of the domestic debt exchange program. On the surface, it may appear as though pure trades have begun. However, lead researcher at GCB Capital, Courage Buti, says that is not the case. The following report has more. According to lead researcher at GCB Capital, Courage Buti, the increased turnover by 30.54% seen on the secondary bond market is not an indication of pure trades where people exchange or trade bonds away. He explains about 90% of the trades are sell buybacks and repurchase agreements.
Banks need money, either deposits or whatever, to meet their liquidity windows. So the holders of money, like the pension funds, fund managers, can place whatever liquidity they have in their hands with these banks, and as a collateral, you get some bonds or some T-bills back for a short period, and after the period, you exchange it back with the bank, really, and you give them back their bonds and probably take your cash. The margins you make on it in terms of overnight interest rates and all of that is your gain.
Bond prices remain very low, trading between 14 to 16% discounts, and for the fear of losses, holders of bonds are currently not very keen on selling them. The question about how long it will take for the secondary bond market to pick up, however, remains unanswered.
I think where T-bill rates are between 28 point, I think, 5 or so thereabout percent to about 31%, compared to where bond yields and coupon rates are. Really, there is a wide gap, and it's not attractive to trade bonds at this time. But then when the T-bill rate falls sufficiently and it falls to the point where bond prices and yields make sense, yes, then activity could return. So it would take time.
Well, that was a report on the actual implication of the increased turnover we are seeing on the secondary bond market. On to more stories. Current high cost of living is expected to worsen for the rest of 2024. That's according to Vice President of Imani Africa, Bright Simmons, who is attributing this to the ongoing International Monetary Fund program. He says as part of the domestic debt exchange program under the IMF program, government suspended ongoing infrastructural projects, which has affected spending and liquidity.
Even now, there are people that are struggling and for whom this IMF program does not really offer much of a relief. And part of the reason is because the IMF program has come at a cost. So there are two things that have happened. One is that the measures that have been introduced in response to the crisis has in some instances prolonged the suffering that the crisis induced. Cement, one of the most important benchmarks for determining whether or not an economy is doing well, especially in our Ghanaian context. And you see that cement demand consumption has dropped from more than 800,000 tons in the third quarter of 2022 to just about 583,000 tons in the same period in 2023. So that massive drop in cement consumption tells you, this is a lagging indicator that tells you that construction is going to suffer dramatically. The same with vehicle imports, because car registrations have dropped by almost 20% in 2023 compared to the same period in 2022.
That was Vice President of Imani Africa, Bright Simmons there. Away from that, Executive Director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, Dr. Charles Nyaba, has expressed concern about losing the gains the country has made in local rice production due to declining demand. Ghana embarked on a campaign to cultivate and consume more local rice around the 2018-2019 farming season, a move that encouraged many Ghanaian farmers to switch to rice production. However, Dr. Nyaba complains that demand has been stagnant, with cheaper, illegally imported brands pushing local producers out of business.
We have majority of farmers, about 60 to 70% of them, whose warehouses are so full of paddy rice they can't sell. They cannot sell because the rice millers and the market women who, under normal circumstances, always buy, mill them and put in the market, are telling we, the farmers, that all their warehouses are full. Avinas is one huge company that has been buying paddy rice for northern Ghana. This year, they haven't bought a single grain. We made a follow-up and we told what they process in their mill, they can't sell. Olam is another company that has been buying. At the beginning, Olam started buying, but they also stopped along the line because what they bought, they could not sell. We tried to find out why low demand, and our findings found that we have a lot of illegal rice coming from Burkina Faso, coming from Abidjan.
You heard the voice of the Executive Director of Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, Dr. Charles Nyaba there. We'll shift your attention to the Ghana Revenue Authority as it has announced that Emissions Levy Act 2023, Act 1112, which imposes a levy on carbon dioxide equivalent emissions on internal combustion engine vehicles, will begin today. The emissions levy is in line with the government's efforts aimed at tackling greenhouse gas emissions to provide the use of eco-friendly technology and green energy. The levy amount varies based on the type of vehicle and its engine capacity. Motorcycles and tricycles are required to pay 75 cedis per annum, while motor vehicles, buses, and coaches up to 3,000 cubic centimeters are required to pay 150 cedis per annum. Motor vehicles, buses, and coaches above 3,000 cubic centimeters, cargo trucks, and articulated trucks are required to pay 300 cedis per annum. And now, before we go, let's take a look at some of our headlines today. Turnover on secondary bond market increases 30.54% week on week to 1.6 billion cedis. Also, Vice President of Imani Africa, Bright Simons, says ongoing International Monetary Fund program to worsen existing high cost of living. Plus, Ghana's push for local rice production faces threats from illegal imports. We heard from peasant farmers urging action to protect gains made since 2018. And that brings us to the end of our bulletin here on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, please check out our website, www.3news.com. My name is Manu Afful. Do stay tuned. Black Rasta will come soon for Urban Blend.
Stressed from a hard day's work.